Everyone, welcome to Plants and Politics. Just before the election, I shared with you the fact that right-wing, really just scam artist Jacob Wohl and Jack Burkman have been charged with crimes involving voter suppression. And if you're not familiar with this case, here's a brief recap. The two of them, these two men, were found to have tried to suppress votes in areas with high concentrations of Black voters. And they did this by sending out robocalls meant to intimidate voters. And it contained some really blatantly racist ideas and themes. So the robocaller made some outrageous statements. One call stated, quote, "Mail-in voting sounds great, but did you know that if you vote by mail, your personal information will be part of a public database that will be used by police departments to track down old warrants and be used by credit card companies to collect outstanding debt? The CDC is even pushing to give preference for mail-in voting to track people for mandatory vaccines." So Wohl and Berkman are facing criminal charges in several states as a result, because they put these robocalls out in, I believe it was 4 or 5 states. And in late October, they were also sued in civil court by a civil rights and racial justice group called the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation. So the group alleges that Wohl and Berkman's scheme violated the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871. Now, Wohl, for no apparent reason, has a really highly inflated ego. He just thinks he's brilliant. And so he chose to represent himself and Berkman in New York in the civil proceeding in October. So it's unclear, I should say, whether they just couldn't find an attorney. They originally said they had one, but then they showed up alone. So he and Berkman readily answered questions during this appearance. In fact, when the civil court judge asked Berkman if he had been, quote, acting alone or with anyone else preparing that message and caused it to be sent, Berkman replied, "Oh, yes, Your Honor. Yes, 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 yes." Attorneys who were interviewed by different outlets are calling this, quote, Olympic level recklessness, because anything that they say in civil court can and absolutely will be used against them in their criminal cases. So all of these attorneys are saying, you never go and speak in your civil case. At the very least, you allow an attorney to speak on your behalf, but you definitely don't want to waive your rights to not self-incriminate. So you don't just go and answer questions. Because, like I said, all of that is going to be used against them. So I don't really care, but I'm so glad that they're not as bright as they think they are. And initially, here's the deal. Wohl and Berkman tried to deny that they had anything to do with this. They said, no, this was not us. We had no involvement with this whatsoever. But the robocaller identified them as being responsible for paying for the calls. So they're oh my God, they're so incompetent in their scams that they tell people who's scamming them. So now they're changing their strategy. I mean, if you can even call it that. And they're taking a page out of the Alex Jones Playbook, because in a newly filed document, Wohl and Berkman, who I should say now appear to have an attorney in the civil case. So this document was written by attorneys and filed by attorneys. This document now claims that the robocalls are protected speech. So the document reads, quote, "The First Amendment protects rhetorical hyperbole on matters of public controversy. Speakers who engage in protected expression on matters of public controversy often use vigorous language and rhetorical hyperbole to make their point." I mean, I didn't know that voting was a controversy. I didn't know that trying to cast your ballot was a public controversy. I don't know. Alex Jones, like I said, he used the same argument in his defense when he was sued by the parents of Sandy Hook victims and that horrible massacre that he falsely claimed was a hoax. He lost that battle. That argument didn't fly in that court, and I don't think it's going to fly in this court either. And the thing is, they face far more consequences. Alex Jones, he only had to pay $100,000 to the victims' families. Wohl and Berkman face up to 18 and a half years in prison. Just days after they were criminally charged in Michigan, Wohl and Berkman were indicted by a grand jury in Ohio, where they were each charged with 8 felony counts of telecommunication fraud and 7 felony counts of bribery. And these aren't the only legal battles that are hanging over their heads. Wohl is still currently fighting a felony securities fraud charge in California. And then in Arizona, the attorney general is after him because they had identical charges against him, security fraud charges in that state, which left him with $43,000 in fines, penalties, and restitution costs, of which he has not paid a dime. So they're trying to get their pound of flesh. And in addition, these 2 lunatics made up crazy sexual misconduct allegations against Dr. Fauci, Robert Mueller, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, and others. And it's not known at this time, but they might be under investigation with the FBI for some of those hoaxes, which they've all been proven false. I mean, one of the so-called victims refused to show up at a planned press conference. He later told the press that Wohl and Berkman offered to pay him money to take part in the smear. And a woman who did take part in one of their bogus press conferences later retracted her story. I guess she realized, hey, I actually could go to prison for this. And she admitted to being paid to lie as well. So, they've gotten away with this for many years. And it's because Wohl's father is a Southern California attorney. And he's appeared on Fox repeatedly, because of course he has. I mean, where else would his father appear? Where else would the father of someone like this appear? And he has, over the years, just continued to rescue Jacob Wohl. He's gotten him out of all legal jeopardy over and over and over again. I mean, this is the quintessential overindulged child. But of course, his father can't represent him in other states where he's not licensed to practice law. So that's off the table. And he doesn't appear to be involved at all this time. So I think maybe it's just gone too far. And, he created the monster. He made the bed. Now his son is going to lie in it. Anyway, guys, I will keep you posted on this. Hopefully these 2 do spend some time behind bars, because they have tried to ruin many, many lives. And if you haven't listened to the video I did on their relation to Ghislaine Maxwell, go back and check that one out, because they're also accused of trying to help her. So I will let you know when I hear more. As always, like, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching and listening. I'll talk with you soon. Take care. Thanks for listening to Plants and Politics. The only way we can take our country and power back is to spread the truth and build an army. So remember to like, follow, subscribe, and share on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks again.